rotate your phone? Okay, let's see. Oh, it's live already.
It's on,
Okay.
the little red.
Okay. Hey guys, it's Eric from foundersbeta.com, and I'm excited here today to be with Becca from Ecopia.
Hello.
So thanks so much for coming in today.
Yeah.
So let's dive in.
All right.
Tell me a little bit about Ecopia and what
for
you
sure.
guys do.
Yeah, so Ecopia is a geospatial data company. So we are digitizing the world using artificial intelligence. So people always think that we're kind of like Google Maps. Google Maps is a B2C. We're definitely a B2B. So we are the technology behind the digital maps. So we can extract over 12 different features, allowing industries like governments, NGOs, insurance, logistics to make faster, more accurate decisions. So we're a team of 30 based out of Mars and Toronto. It's a beautiful day outside, so we're outside of Mars Discovery District.
We're right here, exciting.
And yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is going to be great.
We're fantastic. So yeah, let's talk about a little bit about how you got to where you are today, your career path. How did it all begin?
Yeah, so my path has never been straight. My dad loves The Wizard of Oz and was always like, follow the yellow brick road. My yellow brick road has had many twists and turns in it. So I started in the States doing pre-med. I was convinced that I was going to solve all of the genetic problems of the world. Okay. At 17, I should have never been allowed to make that decision. But here we are. Right. So 2 years in the States, then went to Laurier, finished my degree. Wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I had always worked retail, so went and ran Heel Boy in Uptown Waterloo for 5 years, so it was pretty great. I love shoes, obviously, so that's a good thing to be. Then went back, realized that I had done a lot of marketing and different social media things with Heel Boy, and didn't have a background, so my education looked a little weird. So one of my clients was actually an MBA recruiter, so went to Laurier, did the MBA, specializing in marketing. So during that time, helped Bartesian, which is the Keurig of cocktail, do their Kickstarter launch, which was awesome. I've never dealt with trolls in my life until then, so 30 days of trolling on Kickstarter was great practice. And then went to the Accelerator Center, worked for them in Stratford with their Global Business and Digital Arts program. Then from there, kind of thought maybe I would take a break from tech, so went and did sales at the Wilbur Hotel in downtown Kitchener.
Oh, wow.
So that was an interesting experience. I realized very quickly that I'm not really a salesperson. I'm not a hunter. I'm definitely a farmer and a cultivator. I miss marketing and tech. So went back and had a little stint at Chalk, where I did some customer success, met some really interesting people, and then when in September, September, my friend Emily, who's the VP of Comms here at Ecopia, needed another marketing human, so here I am.
Awesome.
Long-winded and great, but yes, definitely not a straight path. And I think it's really actually contributed to my marketing techniques. It's not just a laser focus of the old school way of doing things, but kind of looking at the customers as well as the product and really having a holistic approach to it.
Right. I think maybe like doing all these other things you've done maybe also help your marketing as well, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think having a little bit of sales, having a little bit of customer success, service, like really sort of blending them all together, keeping the customer as the primary focus really, really helps as you market and try to grow a business.
Right. Awesome. Great. So let's talk about startup marketing. This is one of my favorite topics. A lot of startups, you start to have a product, but you think that everybody's just gonna come in, sign up, and
if you build it, they will come.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that kind of philosophy, I know a lot of founders, they we think that way, right? We don't much think about getting users, putting out content. What's your opinion on challenges that early stage founders face?
Yeah, definitely. I think the number one challenge I see is definitely the trying to do everything all at once. So you suddenly realize you have a need for a marketer or for marketing campaigns, and you want to do it all at once. So build a Facebook page, build LinkedIn, have all of your content,
Instagram,
make a website, Instagram, Facebook Live, get 20,000 followers, everything by Tuesday. And I think that it causes a lot of throwing spaghetti against a wall and not a lot of it sticking. So
I like that analogy.
yeah, it's just literally trying to pull everything down, and I think that's definitely a challenge because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so it's really starting, for me, it's been starting from the basics and saying, okay, looking at analytics, where are our customers coming from?
Right.
How about we do 2 things really, really well and then grow and scale, as opposed to doing 5 things subpar.
Right.
So I think that's definitely something that I've really focused on. What I've encouraged other people to do is really trying to figure out where your customers are first, get those sort of low-hanging fruit wins, and then expand outward. The other thing that I've seen, and I think a lot of people do see this too, is definitely siloing marketing into their own little bubble.
Oh, yes.
So it's oh, Becca has come and we're going to sit her over here, and then product sales and everybody else are talking, and it's like you're building the front of the funnel or the top of the funnel, but you don't actually know what's happening. So I think if you have a junior person in marketing who's not 100% sure about the rest of the functions, it really is easy to get stuck there. So really incorporating incorporating marketing into all of the functions is super important in order to grow it successfully.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So not isolating marketing as
don't stick marketing on a pedestal. We got to get down and dirty. We got to see how the product works. We have to see the customers that sales are talking to, and like just every facet of the business has to have marketing involved, in my opinion.
For sure. And I think you're 110% right on, like, doing too many things and like not focusing enough on where your customer or audience are.
Exactly.
And and I think a lot of times marketing is a lot of groundwork as well in the beginning, right? Figuring out
you have to build a pretty solid foundation, right? You can't build a house without the foundation. So why try putting up walls when you haven't established that sort of concrete evidence of where your house is going to be? So that's how I tend to think about, especially with startups. It's really taking that base level, building on top to then layer the next things.
Right. And in the beginning, it's always a challenge, right? Because nobody knows who the heck you are. There's no credibility, right?
Yes. Credibility is a huge one. So it's like taking those pieces that you have. For example, the Ecopia, we've been around for 6 years, but up until last year, there wasn't really marketing involved. And so really being able to take that past and build on it in order to grow forward. So yeah, definitely credibility is a huge one.
Right. Awesome. Great. So let's go back to your career path, and so what inspired you to get into marketing in the first place?
This is a good question and a very random answer for me. So I have 2 very vivid memories as a young person of wanting to get into marketing. The first is the jingle from the Kit Kat bar.
Was that in the 90s?
It was. I'm dating myself, but it definitely that give me a break me off a piece of that Kit Kat bar. It was something we would sing as we walked to sort of the general store. I vividly remember like them breaking the Kit Kats and sharing with friends, and I remember thinking, oh, that must be a cool job. Somebody can create a jingle and influence people how to buy.
A campaign. Right?
And so from an early age I was just like, and I'm definitely not a singer, which is why I did not sing that for you right there.
Okay.
And you're welcome, audience. But I definitely was intrigued, and then fast forward to the beginning of the 2000s, when Pepsi was using celebrities for commercials. So
influencer marketing.
Exactly, early stage influencer marketing, and Britney Spears was one of their like predominant people.
Oh, right.
And I remember thinking, there's no way that Britney Spears drinks Pepsi in real life without being paid for it. Like, there's no way. And so I remember thinking, whoever thought of that is a genius. Like, of course, that's amazing. And so I kind of took those pieces, and then I guess I tucked them away, because when you're in high school, you think like, oh, well, I have to do something important. And so a doctor was important, and that was good.
Exactly.
But it didn't really feed or nourish my soul, and going through that process was not the most enjoyable. And so when I got into retail, I was like, oh, I can build social media pages, and I can build campaigns and ads. And it kind of brought me all the way back to that Kit Kat song, where I was like, oh, this is a passion of mine, so let's do it. So I don't even really love Kit Kats,
Right,
but
right.
I do remember that song, and that's what's happened, and kind
Right.
of what led me into marketing.
For sure. Awesome. Great.
It's very random.
Yeah, a lot of great details there, especially with that's so interesting. You know, you saw a commercial and you're
Yeah.
like, I can actually, you know, maybe.
I didn't buy the Pepsi,
Yeah,
but I did start my career.
Yeah, exactly. So that's great. Yeah, fantastic. So okay, so we have many. Obviously, we have many students and like recent grads, you know, on Founders Beta, and some of them, you know, want to get into marketing, right? Any kind of tips you might have in terms of like how do you get that first
Yes.
opportunity to just get your hands on maybe on a project or
No, that's a great question.
or even like, you know, entry, anything kind of helps them maybe get in, because
forward.
it's always challenging. You really have no experience, right?
Yeah.
In the beginning, so
Yeah, so I have a little bit of background working with the University of Waterloo. So I worked with undergrads and graduates there. So the number one advice, regardless of what industry you're getting into, but marketing specifically, I think is always to network. Use the network that you have, find a new network. Network. I cannot say enough good things about networking. I would not be where I am today had I not used my network as well as expanded my network during my MBA. So I looked crazy on paper, but meeting people in tech and kind of talking about my passions and where I thought my skill sets would be best used allowed me to get into the AC, which then allowed me to jump into startups. So I think networking is great. I think joining meetups, doing career fairs right though, not just walking into a career fair and saying, tell me about your company and why I should work for you. It's give me as an employer the value of you. Like sell me yourself and craft your story and be very sort of intentional about your networking. I think that's the number one piece of advice. It's never the advice people expect me to give. They're always like, oh, like learn how to use Tableau or Google Analytics. All of those things you can learn and you should be learning, but I really think the people and the time that you invest in those people is invaluable to you as a student. And I think leveraging your actual alumni from your school is a huge thing. There's so many people out there who want to be helpful, and just reaching out and saying, hey Becca, I saw that you do growth marketing, I had a couple of questions. I'm much more willing to give you time if you reach out. Like I can't find you, so I don't know. So I think really using and looking at your alumni is super important. Yeah.
So I think that's also a fantastic way. So to sum it up, meetups, you know, like the alumni network you mentioned, reaching out,
tons of events,
informational interview, right?
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Just grab coffee. You know, we also have many people on Founders Beta to network as well.
Oh, that's great.
Right? So
use that.
Exactly.
Plug
so
your own thing.
Exactly. So they can use that too. So, but I think the biggest thing is, you know, be active out there, right? Be hyperactive in terms of activities to kind of get your hands on that first opportunity. I think that's
if you
the
can
key.
sell yourself, you can sell products.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Yeah, that's great advice. So so let's talk about. So this is one of my favorite things. What are some of your you know, books and resources you read in marketing? Are there any forums or any potential? Let's start with the books.
Okay,
maybe.
cool.
Yeah.
So I love Seth Godin. I think his blog in general is great and something I check on a regular basis. He also has a book called What You Gonna Do with That Duck, because there is always a tendency for people to say, oh, I gotta get my ducks in a row and like let's line these up and figure it out. And then it's like, well, what are you actually doing with those ducks? Which it kind of puts it into perspective, which is great. But the book is a compilation of his blog, so it's really great. It's a quick read. You can kind of just pick it up and read a little bit, which is awesome. I love biology. I'm just going to read this so I get it right. Truth and Lies About Why We Buy. It was really interesting, sort of from almost a science perspective as to why consumers buy and logos they're attracted to and things like that. Was just a really interesting read for me.
Biology, that's right.
Like the B-U-Y.
Yeah,
so
not the science, right?
No, kind of using my biology degree for biology.
Very interesting. I haven't actually read that one yet.
You should grab it. It's like it's older, but it still
it's a classic
rings
one,
true.
Right?
Yes,
yeah, it's
definitely.
a classic one. That's awesome. Yeah, one of my books on marketing, it's called Inbound Marketing. I don't know. It's by Brian Halligan, HubSpot.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's also a good title for our audience to know as well. It talks about how you should, especially for startups, you should do content, organically, right?
Yes.
As opposed to spending a lot of money on ads, and ads are temporary, right? You put it out there.
Content is forever.
Exactly. It scales.
So true.
It's forever. That's right. So that's why a video like this will be forever, right?
Oh God.
Exactly. So awesome. And you mentioned something about P2B marketing groups.
Yeah. So
what are those?
one of the greatest things that Mars and other incubators does is it introduces you to other marketers and founders in your network.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yes. So at Mars we do a monthly peer-to-peer for growth marketing and growth sales. Really bringing a handful of us together who are kind of in the same stage, have the same problems, and being able to talk, which I find is really valuable because I don't know everything. You won't know everything.
Exactly.
You won't know everything.
Yeah,
but
there we go.
Bringing us all together and saying, oh my God, I'm focusing on, I have this problem. This is what's keeping me up at night. This is my pain point. Then to have other people around the table say, oh, well, we're kind of going through something similar, or we just went through it. Here's what I think. Being able to bounce off your peers is invaluable. That's definitely one of the best resources that I've had. Yeah,
for sure. I think that's going to be great because I think they can relate to their experience as well, their own story, and maybe share some tools, resources, tactics. And I think that's actually partly why Founders Beta has grown so much, because initially it's just all about founders, right? Like sharing peer-to-peer experience.
Yeah.
Because if you can find people that are going through the same experience as you, I think that's probably the most valuable advice,
100%, yes.
So I think that's also another resource to look into. Awesome, great. So let's move on to talk about some fun stuff. Like I know startups, there's working so many hours. It's can be exhausting at times. And how do you keep it all balanced and together, put into perspective?
How do I keep it together?
Right, so.
I mean, startup life is exciting because you're given a lot of challenges and you're being asked to solve big problems, which is great. But there is a tendency to want to work 16 hours a day, sleep 2, come back for the remaining,
have more
and
coffee,
just keep grinding coffee all the time, all the on, because you're solving every problem right then and there.
That's right.
I am someone who definitely, my brain works better in the morning. So I try to come in, I'm in at like 7:38, which is like many hours before our engineers get in and before a lot of other people get in. Just because I find for content writing and things like that, my brain is really fresh. So that's kind of my work balance, in the sense of coming in early, knowing when my brain is on, and then saving some of the sort of wash, rinse, repeat tasks for later on in the day. I will do almost anything in the whole world to not work past 6 p.m. or on weekends.
Okay, good.
So I really guard my weekends as time to quickly recharge, to be able to explore. I just moved to Toronto in December. So trying to really find my life balance with my work balance has been an interesting mix in a growth stage. I think it's figuring out what works for you and then being open and honest with your team about that, right? I'm never going to ask, never going to ask an engineer to come in and work 7:30 in the morning until 5, right? But if they want to come in and work 7 or 11 to 7, that's their prerogative, right? Like figuring out the best way that you work with your team is awesome. And then in my downtime, I'm a lover of wine. It is delicious. So having Niagara really close is great for me. I randomly really love doing laundry. So that's a very calming, folding thing. Blame it on my retail background.
That's so funny.
And then I have 2 fur babies, so Stella and Ruby, so they keep me grounded too.
Oh, okay, awesome.
It's really kind of staying relaxed and investing in the people around you, as well as your actual life. And making sure that your friends and your family are still an important part of your life. Because at the end of the day, your work family isn't your real family. They can be just as important. But at the end of the day, your real family is your most important piece. So investing in those pieces as well as grinding. You can turn off, unless you are dealing with nuclear codes, you can turn things off or defer them a little bit, and you will be okay. So that's kind of how I try to keep that mentality.
Oh, for sure.
It doesn't always work, but
and I think you know, in a startup, I think it's a lot of challenges, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you gotta get growth, you gotta get to market and so forth. So so I think having that perspective and keeping it balanced together, it's all good. So and any kind of hobbies you mentioned, I think it's great. Like for me, I play tennis, right? Like,
that's amazing.
That's you know, today I'll be outside, so
you have to enjoy the weather today,
exactly.
wherever you are.
Yeah, so I think it's all good. So let's talk about motivation. You know, day in, day out. You know, what keeps you going?
Yeah, so for me, it's people. The people I am serving through marketing, the people that I work with, the people that I interact with every day, family, friends. It really is kind of cliche to say, but it's absolutely true that my actual soul is fed by the people around me. So
people person.
I'm a people person. So the biggest and best thing I've done to keep me motivated is actually to find mentors in fields that I am passionate about, whether it be marketing, customer success, customer experience, and really having them hold me accountable, which then drives my motivation forward. So I meet with a mentor every 2 weeks. We have an hour-long chat, usually on the phone, basically just talking about the things I've accomplished, what I want to accomplish, our daily lives. But really, that accountability piece helps motivate me.
That's so true.
And then in turn, reciprocating the favor. So if it's somebody that I've met at a career fair or at a marketing startup who has questions,
give back,
exactly, giving back and then watching them succeed. That was one of the best pieces of advice I was ever given, was if in a retail situation, is if an assistant manager is promoted to a store manager, that to me was a success.
Right, exactly.
And it's the same thing with marketing. If you have a marketing associate promoted to a manager or a director, that's my part of my success is other people's success. So really for me, it's the people and then being able to influence the customers in a really positive way.
Awesome, great. Yeah. So to expand on that, so you talked about, you know, having mentors and meeting regularly often. How did you go about, like, you know, talking to people about potentially being a mentor, or where did you find them? Was it like the meetups that you mentioned, or like other sources?
So it's been kind of a combination of both for me. So especially during my MBA, I got a couple through the alumni.
Oh, the alumni network.
So really reaching out and saying, hey, I'm having this issue in the MBA, and then talking through that, and then as I work through my career, it's kind of naturally progressed into, okay, we'll do the little checkpoints and making sure that I'm good, they're good. And so I think that was sort of a natural feed. Most recently, my mentor was my old boss.
Oh, okay.
So I moved on to here, he moved on to another company too, and so it was really being intentional about setting aside that time together to say, okay, here's what you're doing, here's what I think you should be doing, or have you thought about it this way? And really being able to bounce off of each other in that form has been really unique. I wouldn't say that I've gone about it in a super traditional way. My people person inside of me, this is going to sound bad, but I force my mentee-ness onto people in the sense of like, hey, I think that I could provide you some value. Can you provide me some value? So I think definitely, as long as you got that both way, and then just being actually executing on the things that you're saying, so that you are gaining value on both sides. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. Oh, it's great because I know a lot of people, you know, on Founders Beta too, you know, they're always looking to maybe connect with mentors or reach out, but like, it's kind of sometimes hard to have those conversations, right? It's like, what do? Do you send them a cold email, or? But I think, you know, like you said, giving it casual and start with the alumni network, and I think doing all those things would be good to recruit a mentor, right?
Definitely.
Because you're also recruiting,
right?
In a way.
It's just as important. It's the same with jobs and mentors. It's just as important that the fit is good for you as it is for them. And so I think when you say cold emails and things like that, I think if you can find a little piece of information from them via their LinkedIn or their social feeds or whatever it is to say, hey, I noticed that you love the Raptors. I also love the Raptors. Like, would you be interested in just grabbing a coffee with me? And then doing a little bit of background research so that you're providing value as well from the very beginning. I think it's that two-way communication is so important.
For sure. Awesome. Great. So, We're almost there. So what's the best advice you ever gotten?
There's been so much good advice that I've been given.
Narrow
Oh
it
my
down
god,
to maybe two advice or a couple.
So there's a quote by Seth Godin that I really like that says, "Don't try to be the next. Instead, try to be the other, the changer, or the new," which I think is really good. It kind of puts in place, you don't just want to copy the same thing that another startup or another person has done. It's really figuring out where your passions are or where your customers are, and then how to get them in a new and interesting way.
Right.
Marketing is flooded with the same old same. And so really doing a lot of experimentation.
Yeah.
And then allowing that to grow. And if you're going to fail, you're going to fail, but you learn almost more by failing than you do from succeeding. So trying to be that change and that advocate for whatever comes next. Right. So that's been great. Also, I'm just going to say this. I know we talked about it previously, but at the end of the day, if you're hit by a bus, your company is going to replace you. And it's kind of a morbid way of thinking about it, but it also helps keep it in perspective that if you're continually killing yourself for a job, you need to take a look and a step back and say, why? Because at the end of the day, yes, they'll be sad. Everybody will be sad, but they will replace you because you are replaceable. So unless you're the Bill Gates of the world, it's holding that in mind, and not in a morbid like, oh, I'm just not going to do anything because they're going to replace me, but in a sense of like, oh, a friend has asked me to hang out, I will go because at the end of the day, I'm important to me, and I have to save myself first before anyone else.
Exactly.
So,
that's so important.
Yeah.
And you know how it is in airplane when they teach you the mask. They say you gotta save yourself first.
It's so important
before you put it on somebody else.
Yes.
Because you're gonna,
you're no good to anyone else
if you can't save
yourself, right? So it's a selfish but a selfless way to think of it, because you're helping yourself to help other people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I 110% agree with that.
Good.
Like I saw that on the airplane. I'm like, why are they telling me to put this thing first on? Like, I mean, if there's someone else, but it's like
you have to think about it.
You have to put yourself, save yourself first, so you're healthy and capable.
In order to help everyone else.
To help
definitely.
others. But so I think I think that should wrap
wrap
it up. Yeah, so this was first time trying this out. So thank you so much again, Becca.
Thank you
for the opportunity to chat with us and the audience with Founders Beta. So we look forward to sharing this video on our Facebook group. This is on our page right now. And we got the write-up as well. And for our audience, if they're interested in learning more and connecting with you, do you have a social media handle? Or?
Yeah, definitely. So you can find me on LinkedIn just by searching Becka Borody, or Ecopia and Becca. I will pop up. I'm the only Becca.
Okay.
Or you can find me on Instagram at Becka Borody. That's pretty much it.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Well, thanks again, guys. We'll chat later. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.